All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Brian. I'm here with Dean, my brother from another mother, and Squishy Banana Productions, and we're going to be looking at Squishy's game. Could you tell us the name of the game?
It is Rodinn Retribution.
Rodinn Retribution. And in a few words, how would you describe the game? Like, what would you call it?
This game is kind of like a sandbox, single-player, For Honor inspired combat system with a unique sort of directional combat system, and it's very open in its level design. So the pace and the directions you go are based off of how you kind of whatever you want to do. So you get thrown in the level, and then you just get to do what you want. It's inspired by For Honor. It's got a little bit of Dark Souls in its difficulty. It's got a bit of, in its story format and its level design is a little bit inspired by Crackdown. I don't know if you've ever played the 360 Crackdown. They haven't made a good one since the first one, but each level has a very unique system to it. So each level has its own boss and a unique environment that feels very different from each other.
And so this is a work in progress, right? And you've been working on it since 2022.
Yes. So this has a directional combat system. When you're exhausted like that, you have to be very careful. You can probably tell your attacks are a lot slower.
Yeah. My stamina doesn't seem to be regenerating though. There we go.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it's a long punish.
So like there's serious commitments that you have to make.
Yes, if you burn through your stamina, you're extremely vulnerable and you're slow.
Ooh, that's good.
You have the ability to dodge. If you hit the Y key while focused on your opponent.
What is the controller mapping? That's what it means.
Sure. Obviously, left stick is move, right stick is look around. When you're focused, you want to be in the stance in the direction that he's attacking. So you saw those red indicators on your HUD. You just got to move into the corresponding stance. To change your stance, you hold the left key or the left trigger, and then you can flick up, left, or right, and that will change your stance depending on what you want to attack and what direction you want to block from, basically.
Gotcha. And so, because this is a work in progress, are there any like major bugs that you think we're going to find, or any like main things that like you want to address?
We spent quite a bit of time tweaking some stuff, but there can be some issues with like maybe the AI sticks a little bit, and they aren't as active as they ought to be. But it seems like it's behaving pretty proper right now, and we did quite a bit of last minute hot fixes yesterday, trying to make sure that it was performing well. So fighting 2 enemies is very difficult. When you start fighting 3, it comes very, very hard.
One. Yeah, here comes another guy.
That is the Reaver enemy type, and he is far more aggressive. He's sort of like the glass cannon. And
is there a way where you can stay locked on and then swap between targets?
Yes. So if you are locked on a guy, you just click your camera stick and it will switch to another opponent.
Oh, okay. Cool. So I'm sure this game hasn't had an optimization pass, but I think one thing that makes the game tough is just the frame rate is very low.
Okay. So yeah, we are testing it on a bunch. Like I'm trying to see on different builds. That is, you have a pretty high-end PC though, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting because the A lot of people have said the frame rate was pretty smooth, so we'll have to see what that is. But yeah, we are still in an optimization stage. We're using mesh instancing to kind of get the draw calls down, and that will help a lot with the frame rate. So we're replacing a lot of stuff and optimizing it to get that a little bit smoother.
Running out of stamina is very punishing. It does take quite a while for it to come back.
So, you said that the game had 4 honor inspired combat. So tell us a little bit about like how that works. Like,
so it's
for people who don't know.
Yeah, so it's a directional based system. So both you and the enemy can attack from 3 different directions. They can attack left, right, or high, and you have to block in the corresponding direction. So dealing with certain enemies, they will come at you with certain things. Each enemy type has its own kind of unique spin on what they do. So you have something like a berserker, which is a large person. He's got a bigger health pool, and he's got a great axe and 2-handed axe, so he does a lot of damage. You got someone called a vanguard, who is a sword and shield type character, and he can do stuff like shield bashes, but also he doesn't telegraph his attacks at all because he's got a giant shield in front of him. So he's a lot harder to predict, and he's a pretty dangerous enemy to run into. But run into.
So let me ask one other thing too. You said that there's like, it seems like the important systems to bear in mind is the directional attacking, and also the management of your stamina, right?
Yeah, stamina is a huge one, but there's also a wounding system as well that you have to keep in mind. So when you take a certain amount of damage, it caps your max health and stamina. So the more damage you take, the more hurt you get. And then there are healing shrines scattered throughout the maps that you can use to regenerate your health.
Yeah, I figured that was the case when I saw that my health was lower and like my stamina wasn't regenning. But the UX doesn't really, or the UI doesn't really tell you that.
So the outline on the health bar will highlight gray at full health. It goes to orange when you're lightly wounded, and then when you're seriously wounded, it highlights red at the bottom corner there.
Yeah, they're super brutal.
I like that they stabbed me at the end when I was already dead.
Like when they're just like, oh. So okay. Before
does this game have like checkpoints? I mean, because I'm just at like the first area loaded.
So right now we don't have a save system implemented.
Okay.
So but there is also, if you are interested, at the hub level, if you go back to the main level, there is a combat arena that you can train at. So you can spawn enemies and train 1 at a time, 2 at a time, and just kind of help learn the mechanics.
Oh, it's fine. I'm down to just get wrecked.
Yeah, that's okay. That's good too. So this here as well, just quickly, this is bleeding. So when you got blood dripping from your screen, you will slowly bleed health over time.
Does that end after a while, or is it like until you do something about it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it has a cooldown. So right there, it's already gone. But eventually I will implement a consumable system, and I want to have an inventory system, but it's going to be kind of like what you would see in a shooter or something like that, where it's not super heavy. It's not an RPG. This is an action game. So we will have like a bandage system that you'll be able to equip a bandage, apply it, and then it will stop the bleeding. But at the same time, if you're in the middle of a fight, you won't have time to equip the bandage. So you'll have to deal with the person you're fighting first, then worry about stopping the bleeding and healing.
Yeah. Kind of remind if it does. Oh, go ahead.
So if you also hit, I think it's left bumper, it's a special attack which does extra damage.
Okay. And you can switch
so
weapons.
This game doesn't have VSync, I assume.
Yeah, right now it doesn't have VSync options. Screen tearing is an issue.
Okay. Yeah, my frame rate is all over the place. Like there's times where I can see the game running at well over 60. Obviously, I can't just measure it, but well over 60. Yeah. But the majority of the time, it feels like it's running at like 10.
Okay, that's interesting. I am curious as to why that is. Because, well, we'll figure it out. It's play testing
Oh, you got it.
on my rig, which is kind of like a medium range rig right now. It ran pretty smooth, but yeah, we'll have to see why that is happening.
So the great part about this being a work in progress game is that we can, give our player feedback,
Yeah,
and maybe
exactly.
it gives you some useful data. So I think one thing I'll say is when you talk about the mechanic where your stamina is capped by your health, you can easily demonstrate that in the UI, just like with a straight bar that goes vertically, like over both of them, to kind of show that, like, hey, like, because your health is at this maximum, that means that your stamina can only get to this maximum. And that was kind of what I figured was happening, but if you did that, it would communicate well.
Or some sort of graphic over it to kind of hide the. Yeah, I could see that.
Or that. I don't want to fight him in here. I want him to come out.
So let me ask you something about the combat system. So you said that obviously stamina management is very important. Do the enemies also have to manage their own stamina so that it becomes a kind of like strategic thing where, because otherwise one of the things that some other games do, like Souls games, for example, the enemies, you have to manage your stamina, but in some of those cases the enemies also have to manage their stamina, so like they may wail on you and then they have to wait a while before they can do it again.
So right now there's a series, it's called a behavior tree, how you set up the AI in Unreal. And there's a series of weights and certain responses to certain things that are happening in the game. So they actually have a system called defense mode. So if they take a certain amount of damage, they'll start focusing on just blocking and defending themselves. And there's enough gaps in between. But when you start dealing with multiple enemies, it can get a little bit hectic.
Yeah. And is this one of those games where, because you mentioned it can be difficult with 2 enemies and really difficult with 3 enemies. So one of the things that was like it was sort of like a hard transition for people in terms of the meta gameplay of Souls games, because before Souls games came along, most action games, people thought that they were essentially treating them like power fantasies where you could just go in and wail on however many enemies. But when the Souls game started coming out, and it might have been because you were working with limited technology, so you would only have a few enemies on screen. It was kind of like the way that the Metal Gear franchise began, right? Where the limits of 8-bit hardware made it to where you couldn't have like more than 2 enemies on the same plane, because then you'd get like this pixeling flicker. And so what they did was they decided to say, let's make it a stealth game and we'll put very few enemies on screen. And so they changed the gameplay around that. And I think that like what I can tell is that this game is also of that, where every enemy should not be treated as like a disposable mook, but rather they're like, every one of them is a challenge. Is that kind of what you were going for?
That is correct. This game, one of my favorite games of all time is Gears of War 1. And that was their philosophy. It was, you got 4 or 5 guys, you cleared them out, but they were tough. They could flank you, especially in the harder difficulties. They were pretty smart. That's what this is about. This is about you're not dealing with people who don't know what they're doing. You're dealing with guys who know how to block, who know how to handle incoming damage, and you gotta figure out your way to go around it. Another tip, or just quick, Dean, another tip I can give you: if you hit the B button, does a stun attack, which is like a guard opener. So you can stagger them temporarily and then get your attacks in.
Oh, okay.
Make it a little bit easier.
What's the cost of using those? Like there's obviously there's stamina. Are there, for special attacks, are there things like cooldowns or
so your abilities have cooldowns, and there's a system that's implemented that's kind of unique to this game. I don't know if other games have implemented it, but it is an ability system that unlocks abilities based on what enemies are attacking you. So depending on which enemies you're in a battlefield with, you get more tools at your disposal on how to deal with them. Some of them can be stuff like, there's one where when you activate it, you don't stagger when you take damage. So it allows you to not be interrupted in your stuff. There's There's abilities like this one, which is like a lunge attack. There's a bash attack where you do.
Ooh, those guys are
Pretty old.
I can already
kill
tell
them. Yep.
You want to? Oh no, ragdoll physics, my favorite. So
yeah,
you do have different weapons. So do you want to switch to your sword and shield or whatever it is?
Yep.
Dean, I think it's
how do
like
I do
sword
that?
and shield, right?
So if you click on the left D-pad, that should switch weapons.
Okay. I hit up, and now I can't do anything. Before you told me to hit left, I hit up, just kind of searching for it. I'm
Try
not
Alt
sure what
Tab.
those symbols are on the left.
try to like find it again. Alt tab, maybe up. What does up
I
do
don't think
normally? You
up
don't have anything
is
set for
assigned
anything.
to anything. I don't think up is assigned to anything right now. That's weird that it would freeze the game like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those like glyphs or whatever on the left popped up when I hit up, and yeah, I just tried the.
Oh yeah, hit A.
Frozen.
That's your power weapon. That's your power menu. So you can select different abilities based on that menu. That's what that is. So if you just hit A to
no
select
button
it.
that's responding.
Okay. Can you drag your mouse over it and click on it?
Maybe. Let's see.
There you go.
Yes.
All right.
Oh.
So
That is interesting.
Oh shit! There's another guy here giving you static.
Yeah, and this
So
guy has a unique attack, which is like a slide and then 2-hit combo. Now, they attack in the same direction, so it's reasonable to block it, but it is... there you go. Now you got the sword and shield. So another thing you can do is if an attack direction is coming your way, you have the ability to parry it. And when you parry it, it makes a unique sound effect and slows time down. And you can do a special attack called a riposte, which does 150% damage. Yeah, it's a 50%
like
damage
Dark Souls,
boost.
essentially.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
But there's also a special melee attack or stun attack off of riposte as well, where you can. There you go. Got him.
Man, he got jacked.
You can front kick them and send them flying back. So if you're dealing with multiple enemies and you need a little bit of breathing room, you can front kick a guy away from you and then deal with the other guys who are attacking you.
So you mentioned an inventory system. I assume that there's going to be a reason to, explore.
Yeah, so the inventory system is going to be more like an action stuff, but there's going to be collectibles and like story elements. So there'll be like posters and diary entries and all that sort of stuff to kind of give a little bit of a background lore to what's going on. The story of this game is going to kind of work off the back. It's going to be kind of take a back seat to the action element of it, but but it's still going to be there, and it's not going to be quite like a Dark Souls removed from story kind of thing, but have elements of that sort of like you can find certain stuff scattered throughout the world and explore that stuff.
Dean, the murderer of slaves.
I like how they just stay there like, well, we know we're dead. She was my world. So,
one main, I guess, piece of feedback I would have is that the stamina regen I feel is way, way, way too slow. It almost makes it feel like offense is hardly an option, especially if you're being engaged by more than one enemy at once.
Yeah,
I think.
I can probably cut that time down. Like I think it's
but I think Dark Souls is like regen time is pretty much tuned perfectly. So I would probably aim for something in that vein.
Yeah.
Ghoul in the chat says Squishy sold me Fent in high school. And Wizard in the chat says Squishy stole my bicycle last week. So looks like your demons have come back to haunt you, sir. You're in trouble
that happens
with somebody. Yeah, of course. You seem like the type.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is another. Is this guy an enemy with a shield?
Yeah, this is the Vanguard. So he's pretty tough to deal with. He actually
GG easy got him. Where's the teabag button? Is there a crouch?
There is no crouch option, so
Okay.
unfortunately no teabag.
I
But if
changed
you
my mind. Biggest piece of feedback: add the crouch because a teabag is
Teabagging
in
is
order.
important. Yeah.
if you walk straight forward though, there's a healing shrine right beside that house there. Nope, if you turn a little bit, there you go. You'll see it
Behind
there
this house.
with the rocks and the sticks,
yeah.
pointy sticks. Turn around.
So
Am I brain dead? I might be.
Yeah.
Is there
Just a little bit.
exploration
That's
rewards
like,
for
yeah.
Right there.
exploration?
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
looking
right
right at
there,
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. Cool.
I can kind of see like a little bit of like a
Worship
glow to
your
it as I
pagan
got,
gods.
as I got closer to it. But if it had more of a longer range glow, I think it'd be a lot harder to miss.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's a little bit of a glow and there's a little bit of like a god ray over top of it, but it is pretty subtle. So maybe we could make
Especially like this game has very heavy film grain in it, so it definitely can make things like that harder to see, especially at a distance.
Yep. Also, just quickly, the water system doesn't really work. It's there, it's visible, but it's kind of like you can walk through it and nothing happens. So you can breathe underwater right now.
I was hoping
you won't in the
to
future.
the bottom of the lake.
You'll eventually I'll set up like a kill box or something, and you'll just drown because I know some games like swimming, but like not a lot of people knew how to swim back then, and you're wearing full armor, like you would just sink to the bottom.
Yeah. I'm wearing the iron boots. I'm doing the Ocarina of Time water temple.
But luckily, it's easy enough to get out of.
Yeah.
But yeah, this level is called Slaver's Bay. You can see the theme of slavery, but there's also the leader of this band is kind of a psychopath and a masochist, and he likes to torture people, execute people, and makes a very public displays of people who basically go against him. So you see that scattered throughout the scene or the level.
So then, generally, because there are different types of enemies, the gameplay would focus on like different ways of handling each enemy. Some games overdo this, and they it turns into rock paper scissors. Like, if you encounter this kind of enemy, this is what you should do. But I like it when there's a lot more flexibility in that. How are you going to approach, or how do you?
So there's definitely different strengths and weaknesses to each enemy type, but it's not like the Shadow of War game where it's like you got a guy with a big shield, so now half of your mechanics are just disabled. There are ways to get around their defenses and dealing with them. So, for example, the shield guy, he will block any attempt to bash him or do the stun attack. But if you apply damage to him, he has a guard down cooler, which means he can't actually block those attacks anymore. And then what winds up happening is now he's vulnerable to that, and it's your job as the player to get on the offensive and start attacking him, stun attacking him, and try and combo those attacks together to get as much damage as you can before you kind of regroup and come back. So other enemies have different stuff as well, like the Reaver type there, very fast, dual wields, really quick with his slashing technique. But you can sort of deal with him if you go after him, and especially if you use the stun attack on him, he's particularly vulnerable to that. He does have a parry mechanic. So if you attack him and he blocks it, instead of doing a normal block like the other enemies do, he does a parry, which will stagger you, and then he can follow up with an attack.
He can do the repost. Yeah, those.
So this game can be kind of unforgiving, especially like that this build doesn't have any checkpoints. Do you happen to have like a debug menu or anything where we can see other parts of the game without having me tread through them manually?
What we can do, so if you want to see another area of the game, we can go back to the main menu.
Okay.
And then you can go in a different direction.
Yeah, so just go to the main menu, and if you hit new game, you spawn in your war tent. So if you turn to your right, there should be a table inside the tent. Inside the tent, there's a little table with a map on it.
Plan.
So then you can select a different level. So there's the curse wood right there. Now this one's a little less fleshed out, but maybe you'll get a better frame rate out of it because of that. So.
In the chat, by the way, Treebeard is asking Dean if you're using a VPN or antivirus, because that might be causing the frame rate issues. But I guess
I'm using a VPN, but I'm playing the game locally. It shouldn't matter. I don't believe.
Okay.
I don't have any issues normally. I always use a VPN. So I'm hitting A
just
on
select
the curse word.
Yeah, and then it's good. So then you just walk out. So when you were doing the other thing, the level 1 selected by default. So when you select your level, you select it, and then you just walk forward until.
See, like right here, the frame rate is great. Like it is somewhere, if I had to guess, between like 90 and 110 over here.
Well, there's not a lot going on in this level, so it shouldn't.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be very.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think it's like the VPN tanking performance or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
PC can certainly handle it.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why.
And now we're at Blighttown mode. It's running it like at 9.
Okay, that's interesting.
You ever play the original Dark Souls 1, Brian? With
yeah.
PS3?
You mean Blighttown?
Yeah,
Blighttown. Yeah.
Where part of the challenge of that area was try not to kill yourself with the family.
So this level deals with different enemy types. You have what's called hunters, which are like archers. They are invincible right now, I think.
They're invincible.
He bleeds, but he's invincible. I haven't created a death animation for him, so they don't animate.
I will say the environmental art for this game is very nice.
Thank you.
So you guys did a great job on that.
Yeah, I pretty much built everything by hand by myself. So thousands of assets.
Very impressive.
Cranking them out.
Great work. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I will, Dean, I will ask you for just when this stream is over, if you want to DM me your rough build of your computer, because I'm very curious as to why the frame rate is struggling. Because I can
tell you now. It doesn't bother me.
Well, I would prefer it in writing so I could figure it out just later, if that's not a problem. Yeah. So these are the wolves. So the wolves spawn in packs, but they are very light health. Oh, he's frozen. Why is he not attacked? There we go. One's dead. There we go. So yeah.
Oh man,
they can be pretty nasty. The one thing I did do, because I've heard a lot of people complain about how dogs are done, there's no stagger on these dogs. So they just do damage to you, but you're free to attack.
Mm-hmm.
But
so one thing, like if
dogs are very early
from like a game design perspective, right? In like terms of like difficulty ramping and such, it's pretty tough to face like a whole new enemy, like 4 of them like at a time. You know, like maybe you should start it off where it's like there's like one wolf eating like a deer carcass that you come across, and then like a little bit later you come across like 2 or 3, and then something like that.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. The this
great ragdolling, by
this
the way.
level is
love it.
A lot less polished and put together than the first level is. So you will see stuff kind of thrown in there. There should be an archer character. I'm surprised he hasn't shot you yet. He should be around somewhere, but maybe
can you get different weapons?
Right now there's only these 2, but there will be other weapons. There will be bosses in this game. You'll be able to take their prized weapon and you'll be able to add it to your loadout. So in the war tent, before you venture out into adventure, you'll be able to change your weapon loadouts at some point in the future. So
and it's generally like it's basically like 2 weapons, but you can you have your pick of whatever is in your inventory. So you're like, well, I want to go with the and will you also be able to get ranged weapons?
So right now we have we have throwing axes, and you'll be able to get javelins as well. those will be your ranged options. I don't want to use
Look at
like a
those
bow.
I love these. What the hell?
They got a little bit of a funny prance to
They're
them.
moving like rabbits.
I like how that one's jumping backwards and looking at you. Like,
But the
I don't know. The jank can be funny.
I love
yeah,
it.
they have an IK system on their legs, and it seems to be doing weird things to their ankles. But
Ooh, a cave. What was that?
Was that an actual
that was a
rabbit?
rabbit. Yeah, that was an actual rabbit. I would
Oh,
be
well-
careful though, because there is a pretty tough enemy in this area, and if he sees you, you're in a bad spot to get hit. But whatever.
Is there nothing in here to interact with?
It's mainly just to explore and look at for now. We will be implementing some like story element stuff in there. There is an enemy in one of them, and you will find him very soon.
Is there I can hear the music, but oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, Dean, you can kill this guy.
I have like no health, no stamina, and I'm stunned now from that. Whatever that was.
He just stunned you with his voice.
Yeah, so if you
Like-
try and run away from him and you get to a certain distance, he will just stagger you with a shriek.
He hit
So
me.
he
with the
kind
old
of
Aztec
forces
death
you.
whistle.
He
Oh.
forces you to stay in combat range with him. But if you want to see, if you hit the right D-pad, you can pull out your throwing axe.
Oh, sweet.
So if you're aiming,
How many do you
go
have a
into
limited
focus
number,
mode.
or
Yeah, so you have 3, but you can pick them up as you throw. And then I want to add, I haven't implemented it yet, but I do want to add areas where you can replenish it so that if you lose them, you can get them back. So right now, though, all you can do is throw them and then pick them up in the world wherever they fall.
you know what they
So it
remind
will
me
stick
of?
to
That
anything, but yeah.
yeah, that enemy that you just introduced. That's a human wearing like bones, right? It's not like
Yeah.
a monster. It's not supernatural.
No,
It
so
reminds-
this game has fantastical elements, but it's more grounded. It's kind of more like a Conan rather than something like high fantasy where you got ridiculous magic and crazy stuff all over. This is sort of like Legends sort of stuff. So you got exaggerated proportions, you got exaggerated character traits, but overall, not quite far enough.
Quite
There
enough.
you go.
Oh, it's like in its side. Did you kill it?
No.
Okay.
But you did hurt it.
No, what I was gonna say that guy reminded me of is there's a movie called Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell. You ever see it?
Yeah. I've heard of it. I haven't got around to watching
Oh,
it yet, but
there's
yeah.
like these like troglodytes. They call them troglodytes. So they're basically like extremely savage, like cannibalistic.
Yeah.
You know,
You
and
got
they
an
had,
arrow
like,
sticking
They
out
were
of
wearing
your arm.
skulls. Yeah, I saw that. Somebody shot you.
Yeah.
Looks like.
There's an archer somewhere.
Yeah. So he is behind the house. He's kind of like back south, I guess, towards where you were, where you
Like this
came
way?
from. Yeah. Left. Yeah. He should
Can I
be
go,
around
like,
that
over this
area.
way and, like,
Yeah.
around?
Behind the smokehouses, he should be hiding there. Nope. You're got to go left.
So, will there be? Obviously, there's going to be exploration added, like rewards for exploring, like secrets, maybe like special, kind of like puzzles. Will any of those elements be in the game?
Yeah, so puzzle-wise, I'm not entirely sure yet. Maybe we'll have some puzzle elements. I usually, just as a player,
Easy. Got him.
he's not too bad once you close the distance. It's more
Yeah, usually range guys are easier to kill once you get up in their face.
but
That
yeah,
sounds like a skill issue to me.
gameplay-wise, I do find puzzles to be more tedious than anything else, but there will be certain things that you can figure out that give you bonuses. So in level 1 that we were at before, there's actually a secret passageway that you can go to that leads into a cave And in that cave, there is a boss that you can fight in there. And then when you deal with that boss, there is a rope that you can climb, and it leads up to a well, which leads to the castle courtyard. So it's like a giant shortcut to go to the boss. But there's difficulty getting to that. But there is like secret passageways. There's going to be various different approaches because I want to emphasize replayability. I want to be able to say, well, I can go through here and I can approach it from a bunch of different ways. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to emphasize with this kind of open style level design.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that pulling out like the throwing axes can be pretty clunky because the second that you stop aiming, it like stops you in place and has you put them away. It would be nice if I could just have them out like a normal weapon and then just kind of move and throw them at will.
You should be able to move with them out, but you can only move in focus mode, so you are slower.
Right.
Because you are trying to aim with them, but I could maybe look at maybe making that a little bit more accessible so that it just feels
you could balance
less.
it by making it so like you have to stop moving when you're actually like making the throw. So that like if you're up close and you miss and you're trying to cheese, you're leaving yourself vulnerable for like a second and a half.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. So what are some of the other kind of like biomes or environments you're going to see? We've seen a forest and the kind of like, I don't know if it's like a lakeside or like like a pier.
So that one is kind of more the Slaver's Bay is kind of more of the sort of like classic medieval setting where you got a lot of wood fortresses, a lot of palisades. You got that set up. And then this one is like the forest area where you got a couple of its own unique twists to it. And then we're going to have one that's actually a little bit more focused on naval. And you're actually going to be able to go through water and deal with ships. And I've actually already made the boss ship that's going to be pretty huge. And it's going to be
Like
lots of room to walk
like
around.
The Bowser ships from Super Mario 3.
I guess so.
We're in the airship levels. That's what I'm
We're
waiting for.
the Bowser airship levels from Super Mario
airship
3.
levels
Yeah.
and the
I'm
cannons.
That's going to be the focus of that level. And then there's going to be a level that is focused on a priory. So you're going to be dealing with the time period isn't quite for Templars, but it's going to be a Knight Order Christian-based level. And then there's a final level that will be kind of like a giant village, and then sort of like people on top with a fortress on the top, and it's going to be like a big stone fortress, that sort of thing.
Like a
So that
temple,
will be the 5 levels.
or okay, yeah, okay, the 5 levels.
No, yeah, so that's it's going to be, it's more like just a stone castle and then a big village underneath it with lots of guards and a bunch of different stuff. So there will be probably how they like to do it with a lot of games is where the last level kind of incorporates a little bit of something from the other levels and brings it all in. So we'll look at something like that as well. But I have a goal to kind of get 2 more levels pretty much blocked into like where we are with this one by the end of this year, get level 5 blocked in at the start of 2026, and then just come back here and just clean this all up, get this stuff fleshed out where it needs to be, and just the next year and a half, year and 3/4, just hammering this stuff out.
Oh, there's no way I'm making it out of this now.
Yeah, not with these wolves.
No, and
He
you
was
can't
already
run away
thinking.
either.
He's not gonna let you leave.
Yeah, like this is
Maybe
like,
I'll
I would
have
say,
a cooldown on that.
like a very unfair like challenge, because the game is like slow. So when getting basically gangbanged by like that many enemies, it's pretty much insurmountable.
You want to look at another area? We're gonna be wrapping up in about 9 minutes or so.
Is there another area in the game that we can take a look at?
I mean, if you want to try the
first
combat
one
with a
again?
little bit smoother frame rate, you can try spawning them in the hub level.
Okay.
Yeah, in the hub level, there's like a little training area. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay, that's what.
So if you interact with the sign in front of the thing there, yeah, you can select which kind of enemy you want there. So if you want to spawn, yeah, single enemy, just open the gate there.
I hopped the gate when I did this. I didn't realize I could open the gate. This is like Knight's Path. Is that better? Frame rate wise? Looks good.
Yeah, it's definitely running better in here than it was before in the other areas.
Yeah.
It's still, like, right now, I would say it's still 30 or maybe slightly sub 30, but it's a lot better than the other places.
Oh. So, okay, so the art style is very striking. I like it a lot. Even the humans don't look like, you said you built everything yourself from the ground up?
Yeah,
So
everything's hand done.
Where are you also the art director? Did you like decide?
I do pretty much everything. So I've hired people for voice acting. I've hired people to compose music, but everything else is all me for the most part.
Yeah,
so,
it looks so. What? I mean, you said you mentioned Conan, and we talked a little bit before the stream about like the time period and stuff. What kinds of like places are you drawing inspiration from for the visual, for the art style, for this sort of art direction?
Yeah, so I've kind of I don't know what the best way to say it is, but like I kind of pull from a bunch of different stuff. But like one of the things I really like with like the helmets and stuff, this guy in particular, I kind of get like a 300 vibe from him, and that's why I was kind of looking at like the Spartan helmet and how that, like the dirt in the eyes, the dirt in the complexion, and that sort of stuff, almost like a Zack Snyder, that kind of aesthetic, which you kind of also see color profile wise or post process wise in the first level, where you kind of got like a nice brown yellow and it's got desaturated colors. So
yeah.
The second level has a little bit more of like a fairy tale Lost in the Woods kind of vibe, and I took a lot of inspiration from like Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow and that sort of stuff to kind of set that aesthetic. Lots of fog, lots of mist, lots of dead trees, just to kind of get that sort of dangerous woods vibe. And then you got the wolves with their eyes where they glow in the dark kind of deal, and they got like those shadows in the eyes, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So when that guard's holding the weapon like this, that's like a middle guard. And when
Yeah, so
up,
each
that's like a high guard.
Yeah,
that's
middle guard, high guard, and it's broken down. I break it down to orthodox stance, reverse stance, and high stance. So if he's in the correct stance, he will block the attack. And then if he's not in the correct stance, the damage goes through. You're able to hurt him.
Yeah. So when you're in this focused stance, that's when you get to do the different attack types.
Yes. So,
but you can do attacks anyway. What will be the purpose of that? Is it when you're fighting things like animals, like wolves?
So basic attack is good against wolves because they don't block. It'll be good against like if you're interacting with something. So if there's like a trap hanging from a piece of rope off of a pulley or something like that, and you want to drop that thing down on the level, you can attack that piece of rope and the rope will snap, kind of thing. But if the enemy's capable of blocking, they will pretty much block your basic attack every time.
Mm-hmm. Are you considering, and I know this might be a little bit like, I don't know if this is something you'd be interested in, but are you considering things like, like death animations or fatality things where...
Yeah, there is executions.
Oh, okay,
so
executions, okay.
If you try and parry an attack, you can do that special attack. If the damage would kill the enemy, it does a custom execution. So the camera will animate.
Your mission is to do that at least once. You got to do a parry So when using the shield and sword, you parry with the shield. Can you also do that with the two-handed weapon?
You can parry. You cannot block with a two-handed weapon, but you can parry with both weapons.
Okay.
All right. So how am I supposed to do this again?
So right bumper is your block and parry button. So when the attack is coming in, you just got to time it at the right time, like there, and then it will deflect it. Yeah, kind of like that.
Oh, you have a little bit of like
it's like Sekiro kind of. Oh, that was it, right? When he kind of
yeah, there's like
a little bit. Was that it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to see it one more time. Let's go. Come on, Dean.
Nope.
It's like playing Sekiro.
Just regular death.
That was just a regular death.
That's just a regular death. Yeah.
Standard death.
So
right,
am I just supposed to hit the regular melee button after the parry?
So there will be like it'll change your settings. Oh, he's stuck on something. Try dodging away or something to create distance. Yeah, just tap Y for a sec. That might force him to reset. Yeah, that'll force him to reset. There we go.
Press the wrong button.
There you go. Now
there
hit
it
it
goes. Oh,
so there's a nice special attack. Now, if you do it again, you will execute him.
Okay.
It's hard to time because like the grunt comes before he actually makes the motion, and so
you're listening for audio cues, but there's a visual cue. Yeah.
There should be both. Yeah. So when that grunt comes so far, like before the actual attack, it definitely makes it way harder to time.
All right, I'm going to give this one more. Well, this is your last chance. Then we got to end the show. But thanks for showing us what you got, Squishy.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys end up with. Are you going to be joining the game jam that we're planning on announcing in April? Do you want to be a part of the game jam? I know you got a lot on your plate with this project.
We'll have to see. I got a lot to get done this year, and we'll have to see. But I'll keep it in mind.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, April 4th, I think. The guys are going to make it. Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh,
there you go. There it is.
There you go. All right. Yeah,
Boom.
Perfect.
I like the ragdoll.
Thank you. That looked good. That looked good. That was good.
Perfect way to end the stream.
Too. Yeah, perfect way to end the stream. All right. So that is the game Rodinn Retribution. It's not even, is it pre-alpha? Would you say?
It's basically pre-alpha. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in pre-alpha, but it's coming along, and I look forward to seeing where it goes. I like the aesthetic a lot. And I'm a big fan of. I noticed for some reason a lot of the indie people are big on the Conan aesthetic. So, but yeah, thanks again for showing us the game. Thank you, Dean, for playing it, and thank you guys for watching. Please consider following us over on X. And where can people find you, Squishy?
Yeah, so I'm on X. I'm on Rumble. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitch. And I'm on Minds.com. I don't know if you guys know what Minds is, but it's kind of like a Twitter. A Twitter alternative. So, yeah, you can find Squishy Banana on all of them, I think, and it should be easy enough to find. My logo's pretty simple and clean, and it should be easy to find, I think.
All right. Well, thank you, Squishy, for showing us the game, and thank you guys for joining us. Please follow them on those links. We'll add them to the description of the video, and stay tuned for further developments of this game, Rodinn Retribution. Thanks, guys, for coming on the stream, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Good night.